Hello and welcome to NDTV Profit. Joining us today is Mr. Abhishek Poddar. He's the country head for Macquarie in India. He's speaking to us shortly after Macquarie unveiled an EV financing platform called Vertelo. Mr. Poddar, very welcome to NDTV Profit.
Thank you for having me over.
First of all, what is Vertelo? Can you just take us through the journey of setting up this particular EV financing platform, so to speak?
Yeah. Vertelo is what we're calling as an integrated EV fleet solutions platform. What that means is it's a platform that will enable a seamless transition of vehicles from the ICE or the diesel world to electric world and address each of the constraints that comes along with. And how we are enabling the same, we're enabling by providing leasing and financing solutions to operators. We're enabling the same by providing charging infrastructure, fleet management services like maintenance, insurance, battery management services, and end of life. So addressing all the constraints that comes when an operator looks at using electric vehicles. And our initial focus is on the heavy transportation, which are the buses, the four-wheeler fleets, trucks, which are the real polluters and the big capex customers.
All right. You spoke about seamless transition, but we know it's not been seamless so far. The EV financing space has been a challenge, so to speak. Banks have been wary. Maybe they're warming up to the idea of funding EV purchases. Where does Vertelo fit in that situation? What different are you going to do so that all these fleet operators can trust you, so to speak, for their financing needs?
Yeah. Vertelo fits in right in the middle of where the problem is. You're absolutely correct. The conventional banking system is still not there in terms of both the size of the capital availability as well as the terms of the capital. And I go back when renewables were first starting off in India, we had exactly the same problems. And the constraints comes in because of the risk of the unknown. These are new vehicles. You don't know how they're going to perform. The concession frameworks may not always be most trustworthy. Private sector cash flows are not up there. And that's where we are coming in. And the way we are able to take those calls, so we're looking at deploying large amount of capital. As we announced, we're looking at putting in about $1.5 billion of capital under play over the next few years or thereabout. So it's a scale play. To our operators and customers, we're looking at solutions which make sense. So longer term solutions rather than for a bus operator, it's not just a 3, 4, 5 year. We're looking at 7, 8, 10 year of tenure of the concessions to be provided. We're happy, as I said, taking the end of residual value risk as well. And the way we are enabling the same are through few folds. We have taken similar positions globally. So there is a global knowledge and understanding that we're able to bring in the Indian market space, plus also tying up with a whole host of ecosystem. So there are partnerships that we've done with OEMs. There are partnerships that we're doing with charging infrastructure players. There are partnerships that we're doing with battery manufacturers. So seamlessly bringing the ecosystem to offer that service to the customer.
So you are also setting up an NBFC to this end, and you're applying with a license with the RBI, as I think you spoke with us earlier. So talk to us about the structure of this platform. Who are the investors? Who are the stakeholders? How much money you are putting in? How much money your partners are putting in?
Yeah, absolutely. So in total, we are looking at putting in about $400 million of equity in this entire platform. Green Climate Fund, which is a UN entity, has committed to $200 million of equity, and balance $200 million is something that we are looking at bringing as capital of our funds and that of our investors. And over time, leverage this platform to create that book of the scale that we spoke about. The platform will have two main entities. The first entity, which is already in place, which is providing operating leases as well as services. And as you rightly pointed out, we will be applying for an NBFC to RBI. And once we have that, the idea is to a customer, we should be in a position to provide whatever solution they want a credit or financial solution. That's where NBFC comes into the picture. They want an operating solution. That's where the operating lease comes into the picture. So our idea is to live with the customer and the entire journey rather than them running around to look for the partners.
And the partners you're talking about, are you looking at both private partnerships as well as public partnerships? We know you have announced your deal with Chalo, which is the best deal concession plan what they have.
Correct.
So in that sense, you're working with both private and public. And how does the subsidy or concession mechanism come into play? In addition to that, how far can we go with the subsidy and concession mechanism going ahead, and how crucial is it still for the EV space in India?
Yeah, absolutely. I think 2 or 3 very important elements to it. First and foremost, we are agnostic of who the end provider or user be, right? It could very well be under a public sector concession framework, as you rightly said, is what happens with Chalo. Or it could be a pure play private sector. So we are having various conversations in the market about deploying assets with operators who are looking at putting buses between 2 cities or with 4-wheeler fleet taxi aggregators, right? So we are agnostic of the underlying side. On the subsidy aspect, we don't have a consistent subsidy framework. It varies a bit, STU to STU versus, say, let's say a GCC contract. In some cases, as asset owners, subsidies will come directly to us. In some of the other cases, it may go to the operator and may get directed back to us. But as asset owners, whatever is subsidy available, we will ensure that that benefit is passed on to our operators as well. Subsidy is an important aspect for kickstarting any industry, but cannot be the only way an industry economics stand. In all our transactions, when we are evaluating, we look at the fundamental economics of the business and then only take a position. If subsidy is the only way to do about this, we'll possibly shy away from making those investments.
Okay. In all, as per the conversation that we have had so far, you're trying to own the entire value chain of EV financing, from deployment for fleet till the end of life, as you said. A crucial position in between is the charging infrastructure. We know that range anxiety is, I think, the number one problem that fleet operators or even private owners have. So what are you doing to that extent as far as setting up charging infrastructure in India is concerned?
Absolutely. As you rightly brought out, this is an important element. Unlike the ICE vehicle where you got petrol pumps all over, you know, a vehicle runs out of juice, you go to the petrol pump, jack it in and fill it up. Here you don't have it. And unfortunately, it's a bit of a chicken and egg. What comes first? And in order to address the same is, you know, within Vertelo, we are looking at setting up charging infrastructure as part of the overall fleet solution. Because an operator will make money only when it is able to sweat the asset to the fullest. So we are happy saying we will set up the charging infrastructure that's linked with the fleet. We are happy to sign up to certain SLAs so that the operators know that at the end of the day, if the routes can be managed properly, there is available infrastructure for them to fill it up. Hence, absolutely taking away the constraints or the risk that comes along because of the range anxiety and unavailability of the fuel.
All right. And this is captive and not public infrastructure at this point of time?
Our charging infrastructure will have the base load come from our fleets, but will also get open to the public. At this stage, what we are not doing is setting up charging infrastructure exclusively for public use.
All right. How are you bifurcating this $1.5 billion deployment? Are they towards purchases of vehicles, as you said, about 2,000 buses from JBM Auto, about 2,000 electric cars from Tata Motors, 2 very big OEM players at this point of time? What is the parts in which have you say? So how much is the charging part? How much is the deployment part? Can you just take us through that?
A significant portion of the capital will go into vehicle purchase, given they are the biggest capital guzzlers. Charging infrastructure on an average will take 10 to 15% of the capex, but has much longer implications of the same. Some portion of our capex will also go into ancillary services and networks, for example, maintenance services provider, as well as setting up of the technology backbone to drive the entire business for us.
All right. Couple of final questions. India has formulated a new EV policy where it requires OEMs, global OEMs, for 50% localization while setting up plants in India. Where do you see yourself fit in to this India EV policy? I'm sure you're looking at it carefully.
Correct.
But where do you fit in?
Yeah, I think for large-scale investors in India, where we, especially in context of this platform, which is targeting the Indian EV market as well, the more localized manufacturing and availability of say, components or equipments or batteries that is there, the better it is, right? Because especially in this context where the geopolitical setup, the supply chain uncertainties exist, the less we are exposed to the global supply chain, the better it will be for the country and better it will be for this platform.
All right. To that end, we're also looking at a little bit of a slowdown globally in EV adoption. India is sort of an outlier.
Correct.
Was this the reason that you're betting this $1.5 billion and India at this point of time?
Yeah, I think we're not so much, it wasn't the slowdown in the global, but the excitement about the Indian EV space. India is a fast growing economy. Our automotive space is rising. It's people who are aspirational, who are exposed to electric vehicles, who want the transition. Look at our cities, it's polluted. You know, if this is not the country where the large transformation will happen, where else will be? So it were those fundamental reasons why we chose India for the scale play and not anywhere else.
How much electrification do you think we'll achieve by, say, 2030 or say by 2050?
Government has set up, you are aware, government set up a 30% target. Even if we meet 50% of that, that itself is a huge transition. As I've always seen, short term we fall short of targets. In long term, we always will exceed targets.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Poddar, for talking to us. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. This is Tushar for NDTV Profit.